Most people assume vegetables need at least 6 hours of direct sun to grow anything worth eating. That's the rule you'll find in almost every gardening book, and it stops a lot of people before they even start. But if your yard is shaded by a fence, a neighbor's tree, or the north side of your house, that rule is only half the story. Shade isn't the enemy of a vegetable garden, it's just a different set of conditions, and some of the best tasting, easiest to grow vegetables actually prefer it. Here's why. Full sun pushes plants to bolt, toughen up, and put their energy into surviving heat stress instead of growing tender leaves and roots. Shade slows that process down. Less light means less water lost through the leaves, cooler soil, and a plant that stays in its grow phase longer instead of rushing to seed. For a lot of vegetables, especially the leafy ones, that's exactly what you want. Today we're counting down 10 vegetables that don't just tolerate shade, they genuinely thrive in it. Stick around for number 1, because it's the one vegetable that shade doesn't just tolerate, it actually improves the flavor. If you're the kind of gardener who's been told no by every sunny yard guide out there, hit subscribe, because this channel is built for growing in the spaces other people give up on. Let's get into it. At number 10, we have radishes. Most people think radishes need blazing sun to form a decent root. Actually, radishes in partial shade grow more slowly, which means the root has more time to develop flavor instead of turning woody and sharp overnight. Another reason radishes work so well in shade is speed. Even slowed down, most varieties are still ready in 4 to 6 weeks, so a shaded bed doesn't cost you a full season the way it might with a slower crop. Another advantage is that radish greens themselves are edible and even more shade tolerant than the root, so you get a second harvest from the same short row. But the real reason radishes belong on this list is what they teach a new gardener, that a fast vegetable and a sunny vegetable aren't the same thing. You can get real results in low light within a single month, cherry bell types included, and that builds confidence fast. A shaded corner isn't a dead zone. Sometimes it's just a faster clock. At number 9, we have green onions. Most people assume onions of any kind need a full sunny bed like the ones in commercial fields. But green onions, also called scallions, are grown for their stalks, not a bulb. And stalks don't need nearly as much light energy to form. Another reason green onions do so well here is that they regrow from cuttings. Snip what you need and leave the roots in the soil or even in a glass of water on a shaded windowsill, and they'll send up new growth again and again. What really matters here is how forgiving they are about spacing and light consistency. Dappled shade under a tree canopy works just as well as a shaded planter box. But the deeper reason green onions earn their spot is that they turn a low-effort corner of your yard into a kitchen staple you never have to buy again. A single patch, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, can supply a household's cooking needs for months. Small space, constant harvest, that's the shade garden at its best. At number 8, we have mustard greens. Most people picture mustard greens as a hot climate, full sun crop because of how peppery they taste. But that heat and bite actually intensifies in strong sun and high stress. Shade produces a milder, more tender leaf. Another reason mustard greens thrive here is bolt resistance. Direct sun and rising temperatures push mustard to flower fast, which turns the leaves bitter. Shade buys you extra weeks of harvest before that happens. Another advantage is that mustard greens are cold hardy on top of being shade tolerant, so a shaded bed against a north-facing wall can keep producing well into fall, sometimes down to the mid-20s Fahrenheit. But the real reason mustard greens belong here is a small shift in thinking. The same conditions that seem like a limitation, less light, cooler air, are the conditions that make this vegetable better, not worse. Sometimes what looks like a disadvantage on paper is an advantage on the plate. At number 7, we have arugula. Most people think arugula's peppery kick means it wants full, hot sun like a Mediterranean herb. In reality, arugula grown in partial shade stays milder and more tender, and it's far less likely to bolt into flower within a couple of weeks like it does in full summer sun. Another reason arugula does so well in shade is its root system. It's shallow and undemanding, which means it doesn't need deep sun-warmed soil to establish. A few inches of decent soil in a shaded container is enough. Another advantage is how quickly it comes back after cutting. Harvest the outer leaves and new ones will fill in within a week or two, giving you what's called a cut-and-come-again crop. But the deeper reason arugula earns its place at number 7 is that it rewards patience over intensity. It's not trying to race the sun. It's built for a slower, steadier kind of growing, and that's exactly what a shaded garden offers. At number 6, we have Swiss chard. Most people see chard's bright red and yellow stems and assume it's a full sun ornamental that just happens to be edible. But chard is a beet relative bred for leaf production, and it holds its color and texture better with some relief from direct afternoon sun. Another reason chard thrives in shade is heat tolerance paired with light tolerance. It won't wilt in the early afternoon the way more delicate greens do, so a partly shaded bed that still gets some midday warmth suits it perfectly. Another advantage is its productivity window. A single planting of chard can keep producing leaves for months, sometimes from spring all the way to the first hard frost. But the real reason chard belongs on this list is resilience. It's one of the few vegetables that looks decorative and performs like a workhorse at the same time, and it does both without asking for a sunny front yard bed. A plant that gives you months of harvest from one planting is a plant worth making room for, sun or no sun. At number 5, we have mint. Most people know mint spreads aggressively, but they assume it needs full sun to do it. Actually, mint in too much direct sun often scorches at the leaf edges. Partial to full shade is where it grows thickest and stays greenest. Another reason mint does so well in low light is moisture retention. Shaded soil dries out slower, and mint's shallow, water-hungry roots do best when they're not competing with intense evaporation. Another advantage is containment. Because shaded spots are often naturally out of the way, under a deck along a fence line, they double as a built-in boundary for a plant that would otherwise take over an entire bed. But the deeper reason mint earns a spot here is almost philosophical. It's proof that a plant labeled invasive and aggressive just needs the right conditions to become one of the easiest, most forgiving things you'll ever grow. Even the most stubborn plants are looking for the right spot, not more effort. At number 4, we have peas. Most people associate peas with sunny spring gardens climbing up a trellis in full light. But peas are a cool season crop, and light shade, especially afternoon shade, actually protects them from the heat that shuts pea production down early. Another reason peas do well here is nitrogen fixing. Their roots convert nitrogen from the air into a form the soil can use, which means a shaded pea patch this season can improve a sunnier bed soil for whatever you plant there next. Another advantage is vertical growing. Because peas climb, they make efficient use of a narrow shaded strip along a fence or wall where ground space is limited, but height isn't. But the real reason peas belong at number 4 is that they give back more than they take, feeding both you and your soil at the same time, extending a harvest window that full sun would have cut short by weeks. A vegetable that improves the ground it grows in is one worth planting your whole garden around. At number 3, we have kale. Most people think of kale as a tough, sun-loving superfood that needs maximum light to pack in nutrients. In reality, kale grown in partial shade develops more tender leaves, and it's dramatically less likely to bolt when summer heat arrives early. Another reason kale thrives in shade is cold and shade tolerance working together. It can handle temperatures down into the low 20s Fahrenheit, which means a shaded bed under deciduous trees can produce right through the point where those trees drop their leaves and let more light in. Another advantage is nutrient density holding steady even with reduced light, since kale's cold tolerance matters more to its performance than direct sun exposure does. But the deeper reason kale earns the number 3 spot is that it breaks the no pain, no gain myth of gardening. It doesn't need to struggle in harsh sun to be good for you. It just needs consistency, and shade gives it that. Good nutrition doesn't require harsh conditions, it requires the right conditions. At number 2, we have spinach. Most people assume spinach needs a sunny spring bed to grow well, but spinach is one of the most shade-tolerant vegetables that exists, and too much sun is actually its biggest enemy. It bolts to seed within days once temperatures and light climb. Another reason spinach does so well in shade is that it can handle as little as 3 to 4 hours of filtered light a day and still produce a full harvest of tender leaves. Another advantage is succession planting. Because shade keeps soil cooler for longer, you can sow new rows of spinach every couple of weeks, well past the point a sunny bed would already be forcing it to flower. But the real reason spinach belongs at number 2 is that it flips the entire assumption this video started with. It's not just shade tolerant, shade is closer to its ideal condition than full sun ever was. Sometimes the plant that seems like it needs the least light is the one that's been quietly waiting for you to give it exactly that. And that brings us to number 1, lettuce. Most people think of lettuce as the definition of a sun-loving salad crop, planted in neat sunny rows every spring. But lettuce is, more than almost any other vegetable on this list, built for shade. Direct summer sun doesn't just stress lettuce, it turns it bitter and pushes it to bolt within days, sometimes ruining an entire bed overnight. Another reason lettuce belongs at number 1 is how directly it rewards the exact conditions this whole video has been describing. 2 to 4 hours of filtered light is often enough. The rest of the day, shade is doing lettuce a favor, not holding it back. Another advantage is variety. Loose leaf types, romaine, butterhead, nearly every category of lettuce performs well in partial shade, which means this single vegetable alone can fill a shaded bed with more diversity than almost anything else on this list. But the deeper reason lettuce takes the top spot is that it represents the whole idea behind this video. It's the vegetable most associated with sun, and it's the one that proves that association wrong most completely. If lettuce can thrive in shade, almost anything on this list can, and that changes how you look at every dim, unusable corner of your yard. Lettuce isn't just number 1 on this list. It's the proof behind everything on it.